This week has been a productive reading week, which is fabulous news for me because I have an ambitious TBR. If you haven't already checked out my June TBR video, I talk about my intentions to try to complete the Goodreads Spring reading challenge this month. Now, am I optimistic that's going to happen? No. I haven't had some luck with a particular challenge prompt, which I will talk about later in this video. But basically, I have a lot of books to get through, I have a lot of pages, and not a lot of time. So let's get into what I've read this week towards that. Starting back at the very beginning of the week, my audiobook progress with Somewhere Beyond the Sea was something I was looking to prioritise. Now being the 1st of June and Pride Month is underway, I deliberately set out to finish this audiobook pretty quickly in the hopes that this met the Pride Month challenge. Now regretfully, it does not. I took a gamble on this book just because the details of the challenge didn't come out until Monday this week. I'd hoped it was a prominent enough book that it was going to feature, but sadly not. Unfortunately, I say I gambled on the wrong book, to be honest. The idea was that I tackled books on my own TBR, and having now looked at that challenge after the event, if you like, there were no books on my reading TBR, if you like, that fit that prompt anyway. So regardless of what I'd picked, I would basically have not met it anyway. So there wasn't really much I could do. Now, obviously, if I get really good progress underway with the rest of my TBR, I may be able to try and squeeze one on the end. But given I already have quite a lengthy reading list, I'm not optimistic I'm going to get there. So unfortunately, my hopes and maybe my likelihood of finishing the Goodreads Spring Challenge is now in jeopardy. But I will do what I can, because I'm going to try and at least get closer than I did for the winter challenge, which I think I got 9 out of 12 achievements for. But nevertheless, we move on because I have plenty of other good reads to talk to you about. And the next read I then prioritised was a read I carried over from my May TBR. One of the only TBR job picks that I got to in May was picking up Fire Cannot Kill a Dragon by James Hibberd. Now, I was really confident I was going to enjoy this book anyway because I love everything A Game of Thrones. This particular book is about the behind the scenes of filming the TV series, and it was both really insightful, really entertaining, but it also gave me an opportunity to delve into the world I know and love without necessarily committing to a big series. Now, am I very likely to go and pick up those books again in the very near future? Yes. I absolutely love that series, and I'm always looking for an excuse to reread it, so watch this space. I have subjected my other half to watching the first episode of A Game of Thrones last night. I'm hoping I can at least do a rewatch in the meantime. If he doesn't like it, he's just going to have to play his game on his laptop and amuse himself. So as of my last weekly update, I was only 90 pages or around 20% in, and I've managed to blitz the rest of that book, finishing it yesterday. So it's been a productive week, certainly on the reading front for that book. Absolutely loving the subject matter, has obviously helped me absolutely blitz my way through it. So it's nice to get my carryovers from May already boxed off, and I still have a couple of more reads to share with you this week. I suppose technically I did carry over Project Hail Mary from May as well, although I had barely started the audio. I took advantage of listening to the preview and then getting the book to make a start right on the 31st of May, just to get a feel for the book and whether I was happy to read the book in audio format and just generally whether I got on with it. So after I was happy that I wanted to read the audio, I just let it play for a little bit, and I listened to the first hour and change, maybe about hour 20 minutes or so. So I was midway through chapter 3 as of leaving you in my last weekly update. as of this update, I have blitzed through a significant portion of this audio. I'm now on chapter 20 as opposed to chapter 3, and that puts me at about 70% through the audio. Now, I'm listening to this pretty quickly. It's not very common. I can listen to a book at 1.4, but with the narration of this particular book, that's working for me. So I only have, I want to say it's 3 hours 40 left. It's something like that anyway. It's just under 4 hours. So I have made stock in progress with this audio, and I'm really getting on with it. Now, there was a point in the plot where I thought I might lose it a little in the introduction of the character's ally. At first I thought it was a little bit far-fetched, and obviously being science fiction, in the grand scheme of things it's not. And as much as I wasn't a fan of the idea to start with, it very quickly warmed on me. So I maybe had one tiny little blip with this audio where I was like, am I sure about what's going on? But I take it all back. I'm really enjoying it now that I've kind of got past that initial barrier, I guess. And I have absolutely no idea how this is going to end, which makes this book really interesting. Finally, the last current read I get to share with you this week is my last physical read. That is Ken Follett's The Pillars of the Earth. Now, I have only just started this book, admittedly. I started it last night. I have read about another 30 pages or so today, so we're only really just kind of getting into it. It's a very, very chunky book, as you can see. I'm only on page 42, so I have a long way to go. I think what I've decided with this book is, rather than try and blitz through the whole thing as one like solid block, I am going to try and read this continuously throughout the month and dabble with some other reads to basically try and not get bored. Now, don't get me wrong, if this goes really well, if I get really into it, then I might be able to blitz it pretty quickly in one solid lump. But I don't want to be talking about the Pillars of the Earth for the next 3 weeks and nothing else. So I am going to mix this up a lot amongst some other reads. So I worked out last night, basically to get through this book before the end of June, I would need to read about 42 pages a day. So I have technically read yesterday's quota so far. We're at about 4:30, coming up 4:30 on Sunday afternoon. So I've got plenty of time to read today's quota. If I can, I'm going to go and try and read a little bit extra. Even if I can get to page 100, I would be a happy lady. And to be fair, I'm getting into it pretty well so far. It's quite an interesting kind of opening to the story, in that I have some question marks over some of the characters. Are we going to see them again? What their significance is in the plot? And we have the kind of main character, master builder Tom, really leading the narrative. He's currently looking for work. Ideally, he wants to work on a cathedral or something of monumental size, as kind of his passion project type thing, but he has not yet found sort of somewhere that meets that for him. So we're currently looking for that. Hopefully he finds it soon. And then really, I think it goes from there. So it should be getting a little bit more interesting, but obviously we're just kind of setting the scene at the moment. So I will follow up with more on this one in next week's weekly update. So what else can you expect to come next week? I'll obviously update you on the books I have been reading, of which The Pillars of the Earth is going to be one of those. Project Hail Mary, I'm optimistic I can finish next week. I'm hoping after I finish Project Hail Mary, I can then start Queen of Shadows by Sarah J. Maas, which is my book 4 of the Throne of Glass read-along. I'm trying this in audio format for a change. I've talked about in sort of previous videos, blogs, whatever, that I don't like reading digitally on my phone. And unfortunately, that's kind of the way things have to go at the moment. I don't love it. And I think that has been one of the barriers I've encountered when picking up Crown of Midnight and Heir of Fire, especially. So I'm actually trying the audiobook version this time to see if picking up the book in that format is easier. I think it's also going to be a little bit easier for me in terms of the read along, because I'm more likely to read little bits at a time and then chip in rather than sort of solidly read a physical book. That's just naturally how I listen to them anyway. So I'm hoping this is a better format for me in order to host these read-alongs. But obviously I'll review at the end of the month, see if that works for me, see if it doesn't, and then we can really decide from there what happens next. As well as The Pillars of the Earth, I want to try and read something else physical this week. And I did have some debate with myself in terms of the books on my TBR as to what would be the best fit. Now, because I am picking up quite a heavy book, we probably have quite a lot to learn. It's going to be quite dense. So I wanted to pick up something on the lighter side. Now, I have poo-pooed picking up Behind Closed Doors, which is a thriller. Now, this would make sense in that it's the shortest book on this reading list. It's also a thriller, very different in terms of its genre. But I want to pick that up in audio format, I think, and I want to prioritise Queen of Shadows. So instead, I think I'm going to try Ink, Blood, Sister Scribe, as it won't be too heavy of a read, I don't think, but also quite different in terms of its style. So hopefully I can update you on more about those books in next week's video. As well as my weekly update, which will come around the same time next week, I will have 2 reviews to share with you next week. The first of those is for book 2 of the Throne of Glass read along, which is Crown of Midnight. I am a little late posting this, but to be fair to myself, I was late finishing the book in the first place. So I have recorded my thoughts earlier today on that book, and that will be going live in the next few days. However, that is not the only romance-based book I am going to review this week. Earlier this year, I picked up An Offer from a Gentleman by Julia Quinn, which is part of the Bridgerton series, and obviously Sophie and Benedict's story has featured in the TV series earlier this year. So I picked up the book to see how it compared with the TV series, and I'm looking forward to sharing both my likes and my dislikes on that particular instalment later this week. That's all from me in terms of reading updates. I hope you have enjoyed today's video. Please let me know what you're reading down in the comments, and I'll catch you up again same time next week. Bye for now.